Over the past year, we've been exploring Colleen Hoover's catalog. We've looked at her greatest hits, her most bizarre plots, and today, we are not wrapping it up like I thought we would be. If you want the context, it's on screen. It's kind of long-winded, but if you were curious, it's there. Honestly, the short of it is that Verity is going to be the only book we're covering today, and then the final video will be about November 9. Now, Verity is interesting because it's actually different from every other book that Colleen Hoover's ever written, and that's because it's the only book in her catalog that isn't strictly a romance. This one instead is a hybrid between a romance and a thriller. And if you talk to people who have read Colleen Hoover before and didn't really like her work, I've noticed that if there is an exception, it's always Verity. I'll be saving my opinion on the book for the end, of course, but it's definitely a trip. But before we get into the book, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Book of the Month. I've been using Book of the Month for over a year at this point, and I've really been enjoying it. They're a monthly subscription service where on the first of each month, you get to choose between 5 to 7 books selected by their editorial team to be sent straight to your door. It's just a great way to find lesser known books from new and emerging authors that have actually been vetted by people who are reading hundreds of different titles before picking the best ones. And it cuts through a lot of the repetitive noise I feel like there is in the book recommendation space. Plus their curation just makes it a lot easier for me to try out new genres. They've also got curated audiobooks in addition to their hardcovers that you can choose, download, and listen to on the app. So you can choose between a hardcover and an audiobook each month, just depending on what you're in the mood for. And say you don't like the selections for a given month, there's no pressure, you can just skip a delivery and not get charged. I just think it's a great way to find new authors and books that have already been vetted quality-wise, and even cost-wise. You can get new release hardcover fiction for much cheaper than other options. Plus you get free shipping, and it comes in a cute blue box. This month I got A Short Walk Through a Wide World by Douglas Westerbeck. The story follows a girl named Abby who's bleeding to death, and she realizes the only way to stop it is just to keep moving. So in order to stay alive, she's just constantly on the run around the world. And this follows her journey, the people she meets, the revelation she has. It's such an interesting concept. I've never read anything like it before, so I'm really excited. Since spring is here, I also thought I'd grab a rom-com. I picked up This Is How to End a Love Story written by Yulin Kwong. It's a second chance romance based in LA following 2 TV writers. And what's really interesting is Kwong is actually adapting 2 of Emily Henry's books right now into movies. And I love Emily Henry, so I feel like this is gonna be really good. If you're interested, for a limited time, you can get your first book for only $5 with the code PASTEL, which if you've seen how expensive hardcovers are recently, that is a crazy deal. Seriously, go check it out. You can go to bookofthemonth.com, links in the description box as well. I could not recommend them more. But thanks again to Book of the Month for sponsoring, and let's get back into the video. Alright, so the book kicks off immediately, and by that, I mean that our main character watches a man die in front of her, like within the first 5 pages. She's like standing on the crosswalk, and this man proceeds to get steamrolled by a car, and all of his blood ends up on her shirt. Also, I forgot to mention this, our main character's name is Lowen. So obviously, she's like, okay, I need to go find a bathroom. I'm covered in somebody else's blood. And that's when she runs into Jeremy. Jeremy. His eyes match the tie he just shoved in his pocket. Chartreuse. He's handsome, but there's something about him that makes me feel like he wishes he weren't. He wants to be invisible in this city, just like me. Wait, what does that color even look like? Oh, for God's sake, how do you spell chartreuse? Hold on. He has dookie eyes? The way that even if you try to extend the range of what you would consider to be the color chartreuse, it just actually gets worse. Like, why do they all look like diarrhea? Our love interest has Brad cover art color contacts in right now. But back to their meet cute, these two are having a fireside trauma dump in the bathroom. She's obviously shocked because she just watched somebody die in front of her, and her mom just recently died of cancer. I am canonically outside the bathroom with an insane desperation to go pee. And what am I waiting on? What happened to you? I pulled my 8-year-old daughter's body out of a lake 5 months ago. Girl, let me in! Can you do this anywhere else? Also, do you know how hot you have to be for that not to register as an absolutely insane thing to say to somebody within 5 minutes of meeting them? There's maybe 2 people I could let that slide for. Okay, 7. Jesus. After they have their meet cute though, they like go their separate ways. She starts babbling about an ant. And not like her ant. An ant. I was sitting at my computer desk, staring down at an ant as it crawled across my big toe. The ant was alone, fluttering left and right, up and down, searching for food or friends. He seemed confused by his solitude. Or maybe he was excited for his newfound freedom. I couldn't help but wonder why he was alone. Ants usually travel with an army. Why is she talking about the ant like she wants to get freaky with it? And that's not a stretch. Think about the way that Colleen usually writes her male love interests. Loners, misunderstood. How is she describing this ant? Maybe she's just really into A Bug's Life. I really liked that movie when I was a kid. I didn't want to fuck an ant though. After the meet cute and the ant business, Lowen and Jeremy realize that they're actually going to the same meeting, which is about proposing to Lowen that she finished writing the series that Verity, a famous author, had left to write, but can't anymore because she got in a car accident and isn't able to. And even though Lowen herself is a broke writer, she doesn't seem to care about this offer. I have no idea why I'm more curious about him than I am about this meeting. Girl, yes, you do. You want to diddle him. Jeremy watches me silently, probably wondering why I'm not reacting as most writers would to this opportunity. He can't figure me out. This girl's living in an apartment filled with ants, can't make rent, and was just offered $1 million to finish the series. You're foaming at the mouth. Like, we're actually a little bit uncomfortable at the table. But after Lowen ends up taking the offer after Jeremy convinces her to, who we also find out is actually Verity's husband, hence why he was at the meeting. Also, keep in mind that at the start of the book, Lowen talks about how Verity was famous for writing books from the antagonist's point of view. An interesting experience that you get when you read Colleen books several times, though, is that you start to realize how weird some of the stuff is that she puts at the beginning of her books. I had a boyfriend in my early 20s named Aonso, who liked being choked. I think that's what worried me the most with him. In your early 20s, vanilla sex should satisfy a person without the need to introduce fetishes too early on in a relationship. In general, it's kind of a weird thing to throw in, but reading it in hindsight and knowing the scope of the whole story, this shit makes zero, and I mean 0 sense being here. This is where it starts to get a bit spooky, because she's going to be staying in the house while she figures out her outline for the books. And while she's packing, her literary agent, who also happens to be her ex, comes to visit. And he just kind of warns her because it is a bit of a weird situation, like 2 of the children have died in the family, and the wife had gotten in that car accident and can't move. And this is where we find out the details of how the children died. The first one died at a sleepover from an allergic reaction, and the other one drowned in the lake behind the home. Where it starts to get really spooky though is Verity's car wreck. She hit a tree. I read that there weren't any skid marks, which means she either fell asleep or she did it on purpose. Lowen gets pissed at him for warning her that things just seem a little bit off. He's not looking out for me. He's an ex-boyfriend who thought he was going to get laid tonight, but instead, he was quietly rejected right before finding out I'll be staying in another man's home. He's disguising his jealousy as concern. The reason she feels like this, though, is because she isn't a successful writer, so her literary agent was right to be like, listen, don't you find it a bit weird that they picked you? But of course for her, she's super self-conscious and she's like, why would you say that? I'm the awkward writer who posts a picture of my book and says, it's an okay book. There are words in it.
Monkey covering eyes emoji. Thanks.
I have to admit, at this point in the story, I went, okay, this is where we're fucked actually, because this is the character that we're going to be doing all this spooky shit with. Like, I'm sorry. This is not a final girl. She's cooked. And so are we. Even though the circumstances are a bit suspect, she still goes. And I don't blame her for that, okay? She has ants in her apartment. She can't make rent. Of course she'd go. People have done much worse for $1, okay? She's just gotta spend some time in the creepy house and then she can leave. It's not like she's gonna fall in love with the— Of course she is. After she gets out of her car though and she pulls up to the house, she realizes that she is going to be sleeping in Jeremy and Verity's old master bedroom. My eyes are pulled to the headboard, specifically to the teeth marks bitten into the top edge of the headboard in the center of the bed. I'm wondering which one of them had to bite the headboard in order to keep quiet during sex. Have I ever had sex that intense? Girl, you are such a little pervert. How is that the first thing you notice? First thing I'm sussing out in a bedroom is the pillow and the duvet situation, okay? I have a bad neck. Lowen is running a blue light scan. Actually, on second thought, I should be giving her the benefit of the doubt. She is our main character. It could have been very noticeable. Maybe Verity has chompers. Also, side note, while the 2 daughters did die, there is still a remaining son, and his name is Crew. After Lowen showed her room, though, she ends up going to Verity's office just to get acclimated. And as she's going through Verity's stuff to look for notes on the series, she ends up finding an autobiography, which she then starts reading. Which, listen, I do it too. The thing I abhor most about autobiographies is the counterfeit thoughts draped over every sentence. If you're thinking to yourself, good God, is she gonna talk like that the whole time? Don't worry, she quite literally drops it after the first sentence. In the beginning of the autobiography talks about how she met Jeremy. I had my red dress on that night. The one I stole from Macy's. I'm sorry, ma'am. I've been asked to serve you water. It turns out that it was Jeremy who was telling the bartender to only serve her water, and this is how they meet. And despite Verity going to this event so that she could hook up with a rich guy, she's decided that she actually wants Jeremy. He's into her too, so they end up leaving the event. He fed me before he— oh God. He took me to a steak and shake. I'm sorry, what happened to the class and decorum in the first sentence? No one cared when he pulled his hand away and whispered that he wasn't going to give me an orgasm and a steak and shake. No one cared. What do you expect them to do? Actually, on that note, what the hell is a steak and shake? Oh my God, it looks so innocent! We both called in sick to work that Monday, and by Tuesday, I was obsessed. I was obsessed with his laugh, with his cough, with his mouth, with his skill, with his stories, with his hands, with his confidence, with his gentleness, with a new and intense need to please him. I need to please him. This is when Lowen abruptly stops reading because she starts to hear movement upstairs, and she gets freaked out. She's like, wait, I thought Verity was immobile. But it turns out that the bed creaking was actually just the mattress moving automatically to shift pressure points. And as she's discussing this with Jeremy, she's thinking, I can't even make eye contact with him. All I can think when I look at him is the part of Verity's manuscript I read where she mentioned his hand in between her legs at the steak and shake. After they talk though, Jeremy says, good night, Lo. First of all, that is Lowen to you, sir. You've known her 82 pages. That's my sister. She's deranged and dumb and I hate her. But she's mine. If we're coming up with nicknames, your name is Germ now. is your disease. After Germ goes to bed, Lowen's like, all right, I'm gonna go read that manuscript. I didn't want to talk anymore. I just wanted to make him come. So I straddled... I can't read this. I actually don't think I can read this on YouTube. Verity's going Jackie on that headboard like it's sheet metal, but we do also learn at this point that they had to be long distance for a bit because Jeremy got a work transfer. And this is the point that Verity decided she wanted to be a writer, because she was going crazy without Jeremy around. To quote Miss Verity herself, it was like if the only nourishment from her soul had been ripped from her. And it's just some dude named Jeremy. So Verity starts her journey as a writer at that point. She's also missing Jeremy, but when he eventually does come back and they reunite, she's super excited. I congratulated him with a blowjob. It was the first time I swallowed. That's how happy I was to see him. I acted like a lady after I swallowed, smiling up at him. When I got to the bathroom, I locked the door, turned on the water in the sink, and then puked in the toilet. When I let him in my mouth, I had no idea how much there would be, how long I would have to continue swallowing. Keeping my composure was... Jesus. Colleen Hoover is like a woman who writes a ton of romance, but I feel like all of her sex scenes are like so... They just feel like they're written by a dude, which is weird because obviously this was written by a woman who has a very long track record with romance. So like, why does she write like this? But after she leaves the bathroom, she ends up showing Jeremy her manuscript. He loves it. He then proposes to her and then they fuck again. At this point, our close personal friend Lo closes the autobiography and decides to observe Jeremy for a bit. He's a concrete pillar on the outside, but the inside has to be hollow. It's disappointing knowing this is his life now. Caring for an eggshell with no yolk. Jesus, Lowen, how do you really feel? We finally get a Lowen and Verity interaction though when Verity's taken outside to, you know, work on her tan, get some fresh air, while Lowen is in the office and there's like a big window there. She's staring straight at me. I jump up and the desk chair moves backward across the wood floor. Verity is looking right at me through the window, her head turned toward me, her eyes locked on mine. I bring my hand up to my mouth and step back. I feel threatened. Girl, you do not feel threatened. You feel guilty because you're reading her homemade smut while conspiring to replace her out of the goodness in your heart. She may have no yolk, but you have no shame. I can't escape her. She's the Mona Lisa. As she should be spooking your ass. Don't get me wrong, Verity is crazy, but so is Lowen. Also, I feel like I should mention that throughout this whole book, Jeremy and Lowen keep trying to make saying all right to each other, this like quirky relationship thing they have. Stop being considerate. Stop being embarrassed. Just say all right.
Sister, if you see a bitch in the alley with a bad bob, that is not me. Go the other way.
The house continues to have spooky happenings though, one of them happening when Lowen is with Crew. He's looking up at Verity's bedroom window. I spin around and look up, just as her bedroom curtain falls shut. Like, what do you mean it falls shut? She's supposed to be bedridden. What's Verity doing up there? Lowen goes back to reading Verity's autobiography though, and at this point in the book, Verity's realized that she's pregnant, and she's not happy about it. My stomach was slightly protruding. I was disgusted. I vowed to start working out 3 times a day. I'd seen what pregnancy could do to women, but I also knew that most of the damage was done in the last trimester. If I could somehow figure out how to deliver early, maybe around the 33 or 34 weeks, I could avoid the most detrimental part of pregnancy. She's trying to push out an egg. And you're probably sitting there thinking this bitch is crazy, and you're right. And on top of that, to make matters worse, she's not having one baby. She's having twins. Now that there are 2 of them, my body would suffer even more damage. I shudder daily at the thought of them growing inside me, stretching my skin, ruining my breasts, my stomach, and God forbid, oh my god, she's gonna say pussy, isn't she? The temple between my legs where Jeremy worshipped nightly. Oh man. As you can probably tell, she really did not want these babies though. I took sleeping pills when he wasn't looking. I drank wine when he wasn't around. Where shit gets really nasty though is when she has a conversation with him and she asks him, is your love for them more intense than your love for me? And when he says yes and eventually falls asleep, she goes to the bathroom and tries to abort the daughters with a wire hanger. Lowen finishes reading at that point and is obviously shocked. If she did that, if she actually tried to take their lives over a streak of maternal jealousy, what else was she capable of? What actually happened to those girls? It's obvious with how heavy-handed Colleen is with writing Verity that she wants us to hate her. I honestly wouldn't even categorize her as a character. She feels like a caricature. It's ridiculous, and at some points, it's really funny. But I think bringing in a situation that's a very real and horrific last resort for people solely to be used as a cheap shock factor is just so nasty. And if anything, on my first read, this actually did the opposite of what I think was intended. Clearly at this moment, Colleen is trying to go all in on getting you to hate Verity. But if anything, it was written so ridiculously that this was actually the moment that I figured out the book's twist. And I don't want this to be confused with you thinking that I'm saying that I don't think that stuff like this should be in books ever. I think it was just because of how sloppily it was thrown in that it bothered me so much. After reading this though, Lowen sees a photo of Chasten and Harper, the 2 daughters that had died, and she notices that Chasten actually has a scar. And according to Jeremy, she'd gotten it before she was born, but it wasn't wasn't uncommon, especially for twins because they're cramped for room. Lowen at this point is super uneasy in the house, and she's also paranoid because she has a history of sleepwalking and she's scared she's gonna do it in the night. So at this point, Jeremy actually installs a lock on her door, but like on the front of the door. So when she goes to bed, he locks her inside her room, which I get makes sense because Lowen's whole reasoning is that if it was locked on the inside, then she would just unlock it in her sleep. But this man is like a stranger to you still. April the maid is like the only person in the house that finds Lowen strange, to which Lowen is like, I'm sure she thinks Jeremy and I lock ourselves in the master bedroom together after she leaves every evening. I wish she were right. The next spooky event though is when Lowen finds Crew with blood on his hands and fingers. He tells Lowen it's because he was playing with Mommy's knife, to which Lowen is like, what do you mean Mommy's knife? So they go up to Verity's room to go check, and there's not only no knife, but now Crew is saying that he had actually gotten hurt by falling off the bed. Lowen's obviously a bit freaked out by the situation, but she goes back to read Verity's book. And she finds out that of course the babies did survive the abortion attempt. Maybe Verity just didn't deserve to be a mother. I think about having children sometimes. I'll be 32 soon, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't worry the opportunity might never present itself. But if I ever do find myself in a relationship with a man and want to father my child, it would be someone like Jeremy. Rather than appreciate the wonderful father he seemed to be, Verity resented him. Girl, I am yucking your yum. I know exactly what your freaky ass is doing, and I don't like it. She proceeds to almost kiss Jeremy after they were talking about how he feels about his daughters being dead and Verity being in the state that she's in, but nothing ends up happening because Crew walks in. We also get some lovely dialogue between Jeremy and his sole surviving son, Crew. I'm hungry. You promised we could go out to eat tonight. We haven't been to a restaurant in years. Years? It's only been 1 week since I took you to McDonald's. Yeah, but we used to go out to eat all the time before my sisters died. So of course, they do end up going out to dinner, and you can tell Lowen is scheming. I haven't had a reason to make an effort with my physical appearance since I arrived at Jeremy's house. Even though I still didn't make much of an effort before we left, Jeremy must have noticed the mascara, the lip gloss, and the fact that my hair is down for the first time. When we arrived at the restaurant and he was holding the door for me, he said quietly, "You look really nice." Lowen is being a little bit more honest with us because after dinner, she goes, I flipped through the pages of Verity's manuscript, hoping to find an intimate scene with Jeremy. There it is. The fucking truth. Using the autobiography of a brain-dead author as AO3 is crazy. I'm not sure what kind of person this makes me in this moment, because reading this is wrong on so many levels, but it isn't as wrong as crossing the line with him physically would be. Oh, I'm sure, because you're not going to do that, are you? After reading some of Verity's smut, though, she does read onward to learn what she was like as a new mother. Jeremy would leave at 7 in the morning. I would wake up with him so he could see me caring for the girls. After he was gone, I would put them back in their cribs, unplug their monitors, and go back to bed. Jeremy would come home, I'd feed them, bathe them, and start on dinner. Every night he would walk in the door, the babies would be calm from finally being tended to, the smell of dinner would be coming from the kitchen, and he'd be blown away by how well I was tackling life. Like, this is super villain level mommery. She fucking hated those kids. After reading this, Lowen is obviously horrified, and she decides she's gonna go try on one of Jeremy's shirts. And we go from hearing about Verity abusing her newborn children to this. I crawl onto the bed and lift up onto my knees as I face the headboard. Whoa, 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 whoa. Do not do what I think you're about to do. I straddle the pillow, and I imagine being in this position, sprawled over Jeremy's face as I grip the headboard. I close my eyes and slide a hand up into Jeremy's t-shirt, imagining it's his hand that drags up my stomach and caresses my breasts. I'm sorry, in his shirt, in their bed, chomping on her headboard. What are you, kinky Goldilocks? As she's doing all of this, she's interrupted by Verity's mattress moving upstairs. Because of course she can sense your horny spirit down there, you freak. I close my eyes, and all I can think about is that Verity possibly deserves the darkness, the stillness, the quiet. Yet for a psychopath, she certainly has so many still wrapped around her immobile finger. Okay, not really though, because literally who other than her flop husband? What, we're gonna drag April the maid into this too? She changes her diapers. That night, once everybody's asleep though, Lowen ends up sleepwalking and wakes up in Verity's bed. She obviously freaks out about it, jumps out of the bed, runs out of the room, accidentally runs into Jeremy's arms, then she bolts out of there and goes to her room. And when Jeremy asks her to explain what's going on, she gives her whole backstory on her sleepwalking and how when she was younger, there was like a camera outside that had caught her like sleepwalking out onto the porch, and then she like fell off the porch and broke her wrist. If I'm being honest, it is a completely boring and pointless backstory. But where shit gets crazy is she says, okay, I need to go to sleep. And this man goes, lie down, and he scoots into bed with her. He wraps his arms around me, tucking my head under his chin. I know Verity is upstairs tossing a fit. It's after 6 when he assumes I'm asleep. His arm moves and his fingers end up in my hair for a moment. It's quick, as quick as the kiss he plants on the side of my head. You know what? This is what happens when you live in the middle of nowhere. This man is so cooped up that he's doing this with a girl that he's had like 5 conversations with and who is technically working for his wife, who, reminder, is immobile upstairs. Like, even if we're gonna cheat on the wife, Hinge cannot be that bad, right? The next day, Lowen is back to reading Verity's autobiography, and at this point, Verity's recently had a nightmare that her daughter, Chasten, was actually choked to death by her other daughter, Harper. When she wakes up from the nightmare, she realizes that she actually does love Chasten, she just doesn't like Harper. And she's now convinced that Harper is going to kill Chasten at some point. So in an effort to try to stop this from happening, Verity goes into the baby room, goes over to Harper, and tries to get her to throw up so that she'll choke on her own vomit and die. But before she can be successful with it, Jeremy walks in. We go back to Lowen at this point, who like 2 days ago was humping a pillow with Jeremy's shirt on, but now suddenly she's very pious. Since he's married, I keep my hand on my chest, and I don't touch him at all. You're just gonna go read your little book later, huh? She's talking with Jeremy about her own struggles as an author at this point, though, and it's here that we learn that it wasn't Verity who was a big fan of her work who requested for her to finish the series. It was actually Jeremy. I'm the one who read your book, and it was good, phenomenal, which is why I suggested your name to her editor. He lowers his head a little, looking me firmly in the eye. Your writing matters to me, Lowen. Of course, Lowen is elated. I cozy up in bed with the chapter I brought with me. Jeremy made me feel so good just now, I don't even mind being a little disturbed by his wife before I fall asleep. What's happening in the autobiography as Lowen's reading right now is that Jeremy and Verity are actually fighting, because Jeremy's noticed that while Verity talks a lot about Chasten and how great she is, she never talks about Harper. And on top of that, Jeremy finds out that the daycare thinks that Harper might have autism. So to lighten the mood, Verity decides to lie about being pregnant. We go back to Lowen at this point, who's thinking. He stares at my driver's license a moment longer. When he runs his thumb over my picture, I get actual chills. He didn't even touch me. He touched my fucking driver's license and it turned me on. I am pathetic. Don't say that expecting me to argue with you, okay? You are. Her craziness finally pays off though, because they do actually end up hooking up. And as they are, she lifts her head and sees a figure standing at the top of the stairs, just standing there, watching her husband. Then this figure clenches her fists and runs up the stairs. And of course, Lowen completely freaks out and is like, I just saw your wife on the stairs. Jeremy's standing there like, girl, she can't walk, while Lowen's standing there thinking, you don't know your wife like I know your wife. From his point of view, I'm a hysterical mess of a woman who wakes up in his wife's bed in the middle of the night, and then claims I see his wife standing at the top of the stairs after he finally kisses me. Apparently Jeremy is not fazed by any of this though, because the next day, he comes back with a lock for Verity's door, so that Lowen can sleep soundly at night knowing that Verity's locked away. Like, I'm sorry, if I was Verity in this situation, I would be pissed as hell. Like, first of all, I am bedridden, and Lowen is the one who woke up in my bed. I'm the one who's scared. Why is my door getting locked? Like, we're gaslighting the girl who's in a coma now? Is this who we are? You might be thinking at this point, why hasn't Lowen just given Jeremy the manuscript she's been reading this whole time? Because there's a remote possibility that she's faking it. It would be more plausible to believe that I was seeing things due to exhaustion and sleep deprivation than it would be to think that a woman could fake a disability of that extent for months on end. I really love this thing that Colleen does as a writer, where her character's actions completely conflict with her inner thoughts that we've been reading for the past 200 pages. It's kind of like when a dog asks to go outside and he goes outside, stands there for a second, and then comes back in and pukes on the rug. As expected though, Lowen's nose is back in Verity's autobiography. I start the next chapter and decide to skip it, along with several others. I don't even want to read about a simple kiss, much less more sex. I don't want to ruin the kiss we shared by reading about him doing that with another woman. I'm sorry, what happened to Miss Cool Girl from like a chapter ago? After skipping a ton of stuff though, she eventually gets to the point in the autobiography where Verity talks about losing Chasten. Verity explains it pretty much the same way that we learned about it in the beginning, where Chasten and Harper went to a sleepover, Chasten accidentally had peanuts, she was deathly allergic, and she died. In the autobiography though, Verity is convinced that Harper knew that Chasten was eating peanuts and she let her do it intentionally. But she wasn't just mad at Harper, she was also mad at Jeremy because of how upset he was because he wouldn't have sex with her. We'd only had sex twice since her death, and he hadn't even kissed me with tongue either time. Verity also felt if she had taken care of Harper the way she had planned to, none of this would have happened. Part of me felt responsible. Had I just tried choking her again as an infant, or leaving an open bottle of bleach near her as a toddler, or ramming the passenger side of my car into a tree while she was unbuckled with the airbag turned off? After reading all of this, Lowen leaves the room and she sees that Verity's in the living room, like chilling in her chair watching TV. So Lowen goes up to her and whispers, "You're a fucking Then she starts saying a bunch of other inflammatory shit to try to get a reaction out of her to prove that Verity is faking it, including Jeremy's gonna fuck me in your bed tonight. But all that happens is Verity pees herself, and Jeremy walks in, notices, and is like, alright, I'll take her upstairs and get her changed. Jeremy is now taking her upstairs, and it makes me angry. Angry at Verity. Girl, you just said you were going to fuck her husband, and she got so scared she peed her pants. What is wrong with you? When Jeremy finally comes down though and they start eating though, Lowen completely pulls a 180. Suddenly she's all like, I don't want to have this conversation with him. It really isn't my place. This is his life, his wife, his house. Like, I'm sorry, who is this person? 5 seconds ago you just made a girl wet herself. Regardless of this flash of regret that Lowen has, they do end up hooking up. I don't have a condom. I'm not on the pill. All right. All right. Like John Green, call your lawyer. If you thought this couldn't get any cornier, as they're fucking in the bed, she decides to bite down on the headboard a la Verity. I can feel Verity's teeth marks beneath mine. Different, unaligned with my own. I bite harder into the wood as I... Determined to leave deeper marks than she ever did. Determined to think only of Jeremy and me every time I look at this headboard in the future. This is like Cassie, Euphoria level delusion, but with the lamest characters alive. They end up talking about Verity afterward though, and he's talking about how he didn't feel like they really knew each other well. Did you eventually find that connection? No, not like I had hoped, but I felt something close to it. When was that? Several weeks ago, in a random coffee shop bathroom with a woman who wasn't my wife. I feel like as a reader, I'm supposed to be reading this being like, yes! Oh my god, finally! I don't give a fuck. Like, I cannot stress enough how boring these two are. Their entire relationship was just meeting in the kitchen and brooding. Like, can we check back in on Verity? At least her crazy ass is exciting. We finally get a bit of action though when they realize that the bedroom door is locked from the outside, so they can't get out. Lowen, of course, thinks that it's Verity, and she tells Jeremy this, and Jeremy at this point has never really taken her on when she said stuff like this before, but suddenly now he's like also convinced too. So he ends up breaking the window to like jump outside of the house, then he can unlock the door from the outside. And now that Lowen's free, she's like, alright, I'm gonna go read Verity's book again. She's finally at the point of the book though where they're setting the scene for where Harper dies. Crew doesn't know it, and maybe he'll find it one day, but he was conceived in that canoe. The week I lied and told Jeremy I was pregnant was the most prolific week of sex we'd had to date, but I'm pretty sure it was the canoe that did the trick. It's why I wanted to name him Crew. I wanted a nautical themed name. Why do you name him Barnacle Boy? After reminiscing though, Verity realizes that if she were to take the kids out on the canoe and for the canoe to capsize and she saved Crew but not Harper, she could live with Crew and Jeremy as a happy little 3-part family. So she ends up doing just that. She takes the kids out on the canoe, and right before she tips it over, she whispers to Crew to hold his breath. Once they're all in the water, she saves Crew and brings him to shore and then tells him to go get Jeremy while she pretends to go get Harper and instead just lets Harper drown. After reading this, Lowen is spooked, but she's also sprung on Jeremy, so she doesn't really care that much. I'm not only falling in love with him in real life, I've fallen in love with him because of Verity's words. Everything she revealed about him has given me insight into the kind of person he is, and he deserves better than what she gave him. I want to give him what she never did. He deserves to be with someone who will put her love for his children before anything else. I pull the pillow off my face and place it under my hips, lifting them so that everything he just left inside me doesn't seep out. Lowen, you have a parasocial relationship with this man. You're obsessed with his insane wife, and you yourself are crazy. Honestly, what we need to do is get Crew out of the house and just lock the door. All 3 of them in there. After fucking Jeremy though, she's like, okay, now I'm a detective. I'm gonna go over to Crew and ask him some questions. And when she tries to question him about the canoe, he says that Mommy said I shouldn't talk to you if you ask questions about her. To which Lowen is like, what do you mean Mommy said? Crew then bites the butter knife that he was holding and there's blood everywhere, so Jeremy has to take him to the hospital, but he tells Lowen that she has to stay with Verity because she can't be by herself. And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, finally, these 2 crazy bitches are gonna spar. But instead, all Lowen does is goes downstairs, gets a baby monitor, sets it up in Verity's room, and then watches her from the office. And while she's doing that, she finishes the autobiography as well. It's mainly just Verity talking about the aftermath of the death, the police coming to question everybody. But at night, while Jeremy and Verity are in bed together, he asks her a few questions. It just doesn't make sense. What doesn't make sense? He pulled back, putting space between my face and his chest. He wanted me to look at him, so I lifted my head. He touched my cheek gently with the backs of his fingers. Why did you tell Crew to hold his breath, Verity? And this is the point Verity realizes it's over. She is cooked. So she ends up leaving the bedroom to go cry in her office and type out the remaining part of her manuscript. I don't know what will happen next. Unlike my prediction of Chasten's murder, I don't know how my life will end. Will it be at the hands of Jeremy, or will it be at my own hand? Or maybe it won't end at all. Maybe Jeremy will wake up tomorrow and see me sleeping next to him. Maybe he'll remember all the good times, all the blowjobs, all the swallowing, and he'll realize how much more time we'll have to do those things. I mean, she's kind of got a point. He should be thanking her, if anything. Or maybe he'll wake up convinced that Harper's death was not an accident. Maybe he'll report me to the police. Maybe he'll want to see me suffer for what I did to her. If that's the case, so be it. I'll just drive my car into a tree. Lowen, of course, is kind of freaking out now because she's realizing that Jeremy was suspecting Verity as well. And when Jeremy comes back from the hospital, they're like fully acting like a couple. He like goes and kisses her and is like, I'm gonna go take a shower, whatever. And when Lowen goes back to the office, she realizes on the baby monitor that Verity is on the floor. Before she can take a photo of the monitor for proof, Verity like scrambles back up into her bed, but Lowen is done. She runs up to Verity's room with a knife and is like, get up again, I saw you. Jeremy then runs in and is like, what the hell is going on? You need to leave. Because apparently now he cares that Lowen thinks that Verity's faking it, even though before he was fine with it. But then Lowen gives him the manuscript and is like, listen, read this and you're gonna understand. He speed reads it and freaks out and goes over to Verity and is like, listen, if you don't sit up and start talking, I'm going to the police. And Verity tries for a little bit to be like, no, I really am, like, in a coma, guys, like, seriously. But then eventually he's like, you got me. Sorry. Also, I forgot to mention this, but at this point, Lowen is in the office watching this all from the baby monitor. It's just Jeremy and Verity in the room. Verity turns to Jeremy and is like, listen, just give me a second to explain everything. But Jeremy starts to choke her. As they're in a tussle, Lowen realizes she needs to kind of go upstairs and break it up. So she runs upstairs and is like, listen, stop. And as I'm reading it, I'm thinking, thank you. Somebody with a level head. You have to make it look like an accident. What? Make her vomit. Cover her nose and mouth until she stops breathing. It'll look like she aspirated in her sleep. So Jeremy does it. And she dies. And they agree that they're going to tell people that she died in her sleep. Then we get a flash forward 7 months later, and not only is Lowen pregnant, but she's still working on Verity's books very successfully. With the advance in Verity's life insurance, we were able to pay cash for a home right on the beach in Southport. Every evening, the three of us sit on the deck of our new home. This bitch stole her whole life. They do have to visit the old house to clean it out though, and Crew ends up telling Lowen that he has to go upstairs because he has to get his stuff out of Mom's floor. So he goes upstairs and then comes back down with a bunch of drawings, and Lowen's curious because she's like, what do you mean, the floor? So she goes up and she realizes that there's a piece of loose flooring, and when she lifts it, there's a bunch of stuff in it. There's a photo of Chasten and Harper, there's the knife that she had seen that had disappeared, and there's also an envelope that was written for Jeremy. So Lowen decides to open and read this letter and finds out that that manuscript that she was reading under the impression it was an autobiography was actually agnostic journaling. I meant to say antagonistic. Apparently the reason why all the journal entries were together was because she was combining them so she could teach other authors how to master their craft. I'll admit I did honestly expect a twist with this just because of how ridiculously evil the writing in the autobiography was. But damn, this girl method wrote so hard she died. But some other things we learned in that letter is that Jeremy had already read the manuscript before Lowen had given it to him. It was actually right when she had finished writing it because she had left it accidentally on her laptop. After he read it, he freaked out assuming it was real and he started to choke her. She eventually passed out, and when she woke up, she realized she was in a car, her hands and legs were bound, and her mouth was covered so she couldn't explain herself. And at that moment, she realized that he was trying to recreate the death scene that she had written in the manuscript. He then put her in the driver's seat, unbound her, and then walked back to the house, fully expecting the police to collect her dead body. But instead, she didn't end up dying. She was just in a medically induced coma and then eventually came out of that coma. But she decided to keep pretending that she was in it because she wanted to protect herself, because she knew if Jeremy knew she was okay, he would try to kill her again. And of course, tone-wise, she's a completely different person in these letters. She says her favorite part about him was how much she loved her kids. But at the same time, she realizes it's beyond fixing because we can't get past 2 murder attempts, Jeremy. She then goes on to explain that she's still here doing all of this for Crew. Like, she wants to figure out a way to get him and her and then leave. And her initial plan was she was going to find the manuscript to destroy it so that he'd have nothing to hold against her. But once she heard that Jeremy was finding a writer to finish her series, she realized if she opened a bank account and waited for that money to hit, then she'd be able to start a life easier. So Verity was essentially sticking around to find the manuscript and destroy it and also wait for the money to hit her account. Lowen's even mentioned in the letter, this girl got a hold of the manuscript and is making it difficult. I don't even care about proof anymore. I just want to leave. I admit, it's my fault she's growing suspicious. I know it freaks her out when she catches me looking at her, but you can't blame me. This woman has entered your life, is taking over my career, is falling in love with you, and from what I can tell, you're falling in love with her too. Like, she's not wrong either. We also get confirmation that it was Verity who locked the door behind Jeremy and Lowen, but the only reason she did that was because she was trying to have enough time to hide the letter without Jeremy walking in on her. She ends off the letter by saying that she wishes he believed her actions more than her words, and that as soon as the money leaves the account, she's taking Crew and she's leaving. But at the same time, she hopes he finds this letter because even after you tried to choke me to death and crash my car into a tree, I can't find in myself to hate you. You've always been fierce in your protection of our children, which is exactly how parents should be. I don't blame you for what you've done to me. You were a wonderful husband until you couldn't be. So if we're believing Verity here, her husband tried to kill her twice, and as she's pretending to be ill to protect herself, he is gallivanting, trying to find somebody to finish the rest of her series so that he can mooch off of it, and then starts hooking up with the girl that he hired in her house. Like, I'm sorry, if I was her, I would have planted a bomb under his bed. What's truly crazy is Lowen's reaction though, because she reads this whole letter, then proceeds to rip it up and flush it down the toilet. Because if Jeremy ever found it, he would never forgive himself. Never. If he found out the manuscript wasn't real and Verity never harmed Harper, he wouldn't be able to survive that kind of truth. The truth that he murdered his innocent wife, that we murdered his innocent wife, if it even is the truth. How in the world are you this stigmatized? Like, even if we're gonna say, you know what, I'm still dicey on whether Verity's telling the truth or not. Get away from this man! Like, he fully lied about not knowing about the manuscript until she showed it to him. And on top of that, you're telling me that he was telling her, oh yeah, I love your writing, I'm a really big fan of it, that's why I picked you to like finish the series. But he never looked at her author photo at the back? He had no idea what she looked like when he ran into her? All I'm trying to say here is that shit doesn't add up enough either way for you to even bother with this man. After flushing the letter, Jeremy comes upstairs. There's an excitement in his eyes. One I know I was able to put there. Even after all he's been through, I brought light into his darkness, and I will continue to be that light, so he'll never be lost in the shadow of his past. He will never know what I know. I'll make certain of that. I will take this secret to my grave with me so Jeremy doesn't have to. And even if Jeremy really was the reason for her wreck, I can't blame him. He believed Verity maliciously murdered his child. I can't even blame him for ultimately following through with her murder when he found out that she had been deceiving him about her injuries. Any parent in his position would have done the same, should have done the same. What happened to conversations? Or maybe like communication maybe? No? Why are we like automatically killing people is just my question. This is pretty much where the book ends off though. It is quite ambiguous. Even though it is left open for the reader to decide, I would argue that Colleen is very heavily pushing you in the direction of Lowen and Jeremy. Maybe I'm a contrarian. I believe Verity. Maybe it's because they were just so goddamn annoying that I have to believe her, but it just makes sense to me. I also just think that an ending leaning more on the side of believing Verity more explicitly would have actually been more interesting. With maybe Lowen realizing that she's kind of trapped having helped this guy she loves kill someone, is pregnant with her baby, and even money-wise, she's dependent on keeping the book deal she got through Jeremy. But instead she just turns into this whole like, you would do anything for your kids thing. And under the assumption that Verity is telling the truth, those two are going to hell. I'll see you guys down there. But like not that far down. I'd like to believe that hell is like an apartment system. So I'll be down there, but like not as far as them. So I can like look down a little bit. I do get why people say that this is better than her other stuff because plot-wise it is a lot more exciting, but I don't think it's terribly good at being either a thriller or a romance. On the romance side, neither Lowen or Jeremy had any personality. That's why I didn't really mention their relationship too much in the book because it is barely there, but when it is, it's like watching someone rub two sheets of paper together. And on the thriller end, Colleen gave Lowen a rubber duck for a brain. Like how is she going to tell us at the start of the book that Verity is famous for writing antagonists and she herself would not consider that once? Like I just hate when authors dumb down their characters like that. Maybe it's because I've read a ton of thrillers that I was able to kind of catch on to things pretty quickly, so it wasn't that big of a twist. I've also heard some people say this is very reminiscent of the classic Rebecca, which I haven't read yet, but if any of you guys have read both of those, definitely let me know your thoughts. Even if you've just read Verity, I'm curious to know what you guys think. Definitely leave your thoughts in the comments down below if you want to. You can also follow me outside of YouTube on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Goodreads, Letterboxd, all that stuff will be in the pinned comment down below. But otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one.